Welcome back to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have Robert Moriarty with me. He's the proprietor of 321 Gold. Before I say hello to Robert, though, I'd like to just pass along this information that Michael Oliver sent me. I wasn't aware that he had actually done a chart on Novo resources, and he is suggesting, his work is suggesting that if we get around $2.26 in U.S. money, by the end of any closing weeks over the next few weeks, that it should be a green light and an upward and onward with for Novo Resources. So that's coming from Michael Oliver, who is my most trusted technical analyst. That's the reason he's on this show almost every week. But now someone who is equally trusted in my eyes, Robert Moriarty. Thanks for joining me today. Robert?
Yeah, it's a real pleasure, Jay.
It's a real pleasure to have you because, especially following Quentin Henning, because I know that you know him very well. He's a very good friend of yours, and he thinks very highly of you. You have made a visit how many times to the great western area, the Pilbara area where Novo is mining? How many times have you been down there, Robert?
I just came back from my 7th trip.
Wow. 7th trip. How long does it take you to get there from your home in France right now?
About 14 days.
How long does it take you? How long does it take you to travel there?
About 14 days.
No, the time it takes the air flight. How long does it take you?
Maybe it just seems like 14 days.
Okay.
It's the longest flight. It's pretty bad. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal, and one of the reasons that I've never gone down there. I'm not as strong as you are, I guess, and I'm more of a city slicker, I suppose. But what's that?
I said you're a wuss.
Yeah, it would seem so. Well, anyway, let's get on to this because you've been down there so often. You've I mean, this is a massive thing, but can you give our listeners just a sense of how large these conglomerate beds are, Robert?
Let me compare it to the Pilbara iron ore. And both the iron ore and the gold precipitated out of solution in the presence of oxygen between 2.8 and 3.2 billion years ago. In the Pilbara, there is a 400-year supply of iron. We've tracked gold across the basin for over 300 kilometers, and it's scary. And I'm very hesitant to put a number on it, but it looks like there's gold all over there, and it looks like all of the conglomerates are mineralized. And the issue has never been whether they were mineralized or not. Mm-hmm. The issue was how do you recover it in a very hot, dry area with very little water. And that's where Novo has cracked the code.
Yeah, it seems they have. And this press release they just put out a couple of days ago, which Quentin talked and he talked about this right before this previous segment, before you came on here, about the Steinhardt and Tomra, I guess is how you pronounce it, technologies. Talk to us a little bit about this technology, these emerging technologies that are really being geared for this project to a great extent, although to a certain extent I understand the technologies have been developed for recovering metals from other waste environments and so forth. But talk to us a little bit about them and what do you think it will do in terms of cost reduction in this environment? As you point out, this is really a desert environment, a hot, dry desert environment. So explain to our listeners how this is going to really, or it looks like it will really help make this project, this massive project, potentially very economic.
Well, you've got 3 different projects. You've got Beaton's Creek, and that's a very conventional project. And the interesting issue at Beaton's Creek is it really looks like Millennium is about to go belly up. I argued 2 years ago that Millennium had poor management. They were doing a rotten job. They needed to do some kind of a deal with Novo, and they wouldn't do it. Now, Quentin and I have an agreement And the agreement at Beaton's Creek is that he won't go build $100 million mill, and I won't bust his kneecaps. Now, the other two projects, and this is where it gets really interesting, is Purdy's and Comet Well, which is the hard rock project near Karratha, and then Egina. And both of them are conglomerate beds. The hard rock project is under a cover of basalt, and it is hard, and it's very hard. It's very nuggety gold, which means it's impossible to measure. And then the Egina, which is very conventional gravel that's near surface, and that's what I saw on this trip with the Hedgeless Horseman and with Keith Barron. We went to see a machine, a Steinhardt machine, in Perth, and they were able to detect pinhead-size gold. And what you do is you run your material over a conveyor belt, it passes over some sensors, and then a little blast of air blows the gold into the gold container. It's very important from a security point of view because no human hands ever touch the gold. But from a practical matter, they have increased the ability of these machines to sense and detect gold about tenfold in the last year. And the real key for Egina is you can use these in a dry environment. Now, if there were water supplies available like there is in California or in Alaska, the entire Pilbara would have been mined 100 years ago. They knew the gold was there, but they couldn't recover the gold because it cost too much to do and there was no water. If you could recover the very nuggety gold using a dry technique, you can get your costs down. It will be, Egina will be the lowest cost gold production in the world, and they'll be in production hopefully in May or June of next year. The Steinhardt and the Tomra machines are nothing short of remarkable.
May or June of next year, I mean, I could see some sort of trial production, but not really commercial production. I wouldn't think would be that soon.
Here's what's crazy. When I was there, one of the things that really shocked me, and I mean truly shocked me, the distribution of gold, the size of the gold, and the grade of the gold appears to be very consistent from Egina to Comet Well and Purdy's. And that's absolutely bizarre because they're totally different kinds of environment. Egina could be 50 million years old, and Comet Well could be 2.5 billion years old. Yet the grade of the gold, the size of the gold, the quality of the gold, the quantity of the gold all appears to be the same. Now, Quentin and I were hoping for something above 0.7 or 0.8 grams per cubic meter at Egina, and it appears to be better than that. There will be more results coming out shortly, but both Keith Barron and I agreed the pure cost of processing would be about $5 a cubic meter.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is really dry mechanical separation or recovery, so I wouldn't think there's much electrical or much energy requirements for this. And will they produce a concentrate, as Quentin explained? It blows the gold, the nuggets into one bin, and the waste rock, I guess, would be left behind, probably put right back into the mine, right? And so where does this concentrate go then from there? Do you think they'll melt it down, do a doré on site, or how do you think they'll handle it?
They probably won't, because what you don't want humans handling it. They will have lock boxes that nobody can touch, and there will be specific identity for each lock box, and there will be weights inside each lock box. So if you ship a box from Egina to Perth, all they have to do is weigh the thing when they get Perth, and they know they have the right box. Novo will not touch the gold. It will go directly to a smelter, and it won't be a concentrate in terms of what you're used to thinking. It will be nothing but a bunch of nuggets.
Right, and so, I mean, there shouldn't be, a lot of times concentrates have nasty elements in there that give you penalties and that sort of thing. There shouldn't be any of that. I guess the whole thing is to keep human hands off of it so that they don't, those nuggets don't get sliding into somebody's pockets, right? So.
Yeah, and that's a big issue. Every alluvial project that I've ever seen, people are stealing.
Yeah, well, it's very hard to stop that, I would think.
No,
well, I guess I'm sorry, Robert.
It's impossible.
Yeah. All right. So I hope they find a way, though. As a shareholder of Novo, you're suggesting that if they can keep human hands off of it, and keep the people that are dealing with the company internally honest, then there shouldn't be a problem. But that's maybe asking a lot of human beings. But anyway, we can hope.
Actually, no, it's not going to be an issue, and I wish I could show you the machine. It's a big machine. What you really see is this conveyor belt. You screen the material. You feed the correct size material on the conveyor belt. It costs next to nothing. It's obscene. It's so cheap. The biggest cost of the machine is the power to run the compressor to have the air to blow the nuggets. I mean, it's unbelievable. But the nuggets go into a box. The box is sealed. It's locked. Nobody can touch it. And the box gets shipped, and there's ways of identifying it. So actually, no one at Novo will ever touch the gold. It only will get opened when it gets to Perth or wherever they're going to ship it to.
All right, Robert. Well, if you're right about this, and it's the lowest, it turns out to be the lowest cost gold mine or mining operation in the world, then I guess my next question, because I wanted to transition into a little of market, your views on the markets. The gold price, then, we don't need to see $2,000 gold or $1,500 gold even to make this profitable, I guess. It should be very profitable at much lower prices. But nonetheless, I would like to ask you, what do you think, what is your concept of the gold price? Where do you have a sense? Are you bullish? Are you neutral, bearish, or what on gold?
Yes. Yes.
Is that the answer? Yes?
I'm neutral, I'm bearish, and I'm bullish. I'm bearish until the middle of December. I think we're due a correction. I called for a correction weeks ago. It appears that we're in a correction. People are way too bullish. I would like to see them less bullish. But what the Federal Reserve has done by pumping money into the system is eventually going to require much higher gold. The Federal Reserve is suggesting that probably Deutsche Bank is in deep, serious trouble, and which means the banking system is in deep, serious trouble. And the crash that should have occurred in 2008 is a lot closer than anybody wants to admit.
Don't like that. And I have to ask you, what do you think in terms of the election, 2020 presidential election in the U.S.? Do you think the coup d'etat will be successful before that date? They get rid of Mr. Trump before then, or do you think he'll survive? And if he survives, what difference will that make, if any, with respect to the various markets?
Yeah, we very definitely are having a coup d'etat. The military is involved, the CIA is involved, the FBI is involved, the DOJ is involved, CIA, I think I said CIA, NSA is involved. It's very scary, and the takeaway from the impeachment hearings is we don't like Trump because he thinks he has a right to run the foreign policy of the United States, and we don't agree with that. And if you think about that for over 3 or 4 seconds, isn't that why he was elected in the first place?
That's one of the reasons. Yeah, that's why I voted for him.
Yeah. Why do we give a shit what some lieutenant colonel thinks about the foreign policy of the United States with Ukraine? Lieutenant colonels are the guys who get the coffee for the 3-star generals. I mean, I am absolutely staggered that this circus, this clown show is going on. And the scary thing to me is this is an ongoing coup d'etat. It started before the election. It's going to continue. I don't think there'll be an election in 2020. I highly suspect it's going to get so chaotic that the military is going to step in and say, we need to have a temporary military government until we can restore order and hold free elections.
Wow,
but if you understand what happens when the military takes over, sometimes it takes 10 or 20 years to hold free elections. I had sent you some stuff before the show. I wrote a book 3 years ago about my experience in the military, and I predicted the world's first global revolution. And then I wrote another article in January of this year about the Yellow Jackets in France. And I said, when they went on strike in November of last year, exactly a year ago, that was the first blow in the global revolution. It's in Iran, it's in Iraq, it's in Ecuador, it's in Chile, it's in Hong Kong, and it's only going to get worse, and it is coming to the United States.
Well, that's a scary thought, and of course you live in France. How are things looking there?
It's very peaceful where I live, but the Yellow Jackets here issue is exactly what the issue is around the world. The dichotomy, the spread between the rich and the poor has gotten to be too great. And the poor are getting very upset. There's been a lot of good writing by Ray Dalio, and he points out 40% of Americans couldn't raise $400 in case of an emergency, and 17% of kids in the United States live in poverty, and that's never changed. We live in the richest country in the world, in theory, and if 40% of Americans can't raise $400, we got a problem.
Yeah. So I can understand then if we head into some sort of the next economic decline like we had in 2008, 2009, at this time the Fed may not be able to get a handle on it and stop it in the negative interest rates, which won't fix anything. Then you start having these people that live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have any savings. There's no place to go. You can understand why you're suggesting chaos, and in order to restore some sort of order, the military steps in, and we don't have any more elections for a while. That's your suggestion.
Well,
that's your scenario.
Let me put it this way. It should be obvious to now we didn't have an election in 2016.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. They are doing whatever they can to overturn that election because it doesn't fit the military-industrial complex's foreign policy or the empire's foreign policy. But empires have to keep doing this, Robert, in order to survive. They have to keep expanding, right? And
that's the danger. But that's like a balloon. Okay, if you blow into a balloon, what's going to happen someday? And the answer is it's going to blow up. But all empires end, and they end when they get involved in military adventurism. We've been in constant war for the last 20 years. We are still in war in Afghanistan. We've been there for 19 years. And what the hell do those idiots think they're doing? I mean, do they absolutely believe, we're fighting for 19 years, we're winning? If you walk into a bar and you start a fight and you're still fighting 19 years later, you lost.
All right. Well, this is we're going to have to end on this sort of gloomy note, Robert. But in the meantime, we do what we can to feed our families, take care of ourselves, protect ourselves, and that's what this show is about. I thank you very much for helping us understand more about Novo. It's certainly one place I think we can look to with some excitement and some positive optimism. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope we can do it again sometime soon, Bob. Take care.
Well, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you, Jay.